treatment. By moving forward, we can begin using water from the reservoir within 3 years. In the unfortunate event that a settlement is not reached and Judge Magnuson's order goes into full effect. This is 4 years before the Glades Farm Reservoir will be able to begin drawing water, in the best case scenario. The Cedar Creek Reservoir will be designed so it can easily be expanded to accept water from other sources, such as unnamed future reservoirs or the Glades Farm Reservoir, if the county so desires. This will allow us to use current distribution lines that are already in the ground and therefore reduce the cost and duplication of services. Again, I ask that our local elected officials and our local legislative delegation, I ask each one of us to support the city as we move forward to prepare for the future of this great city and as we continue to position ourselves to maintain our leadership role in providing water, that necessary resource that serves all of our customers in the city of Gainesville and in unincorporated Hall County. I'd like to ask the Public Utilities staff to review the resolution that we've prepared and the process of developing the water treatment plant at Cedar Creek.
Kelly, in less than a month after the judge's ruling, you met with the City Council and staff, and as the mayor just mentioned, you all came up with the idea for this new water treatment plant at Cedar Creek. Was this something that was always planned by the city anyway? It was just pushed forward because of the judge's ruling?
It was planned. It's been planned for some time. Back in January of 2006, the county and the city signed an intergovernmental agreement whereby we were made responsible for construction and distribution of the water from the Cedar Creek Reservoir, which the county built a number of years ago. I have to say their foresight in that is great. It's really our ace in the hole. If we didn't have that reservoir, we'd really be in trouble. It was in our 5-year plan to have that plant online in 2013, but with the judge's ruling, we have to move it up a year and have it online by the summer of 2012.
We sit here on the lake today, and certainly it looks like we have an endless supply of water. We have some ducks behind us that have come up for the show here on TV 18 as well. But again, it looks like we have an endless supply of water. How would the judge's ruling affect the operation of the lake?
It's a difficult question, but a lot of people believe if water supply is no longer main purpose of the lake, that the lake would actually stay higher. But what the judge really said is, if water is diverted from power for water supply, that's in essence illegal. He in essence said the power people should be able to draw on this lake whenever they deem it's necessary in order to make the highest and best use of their resources. So really, if the power people wanted to pull the lake down to 1035, which is the top of the conservation pool, what the judge is saying, they should be able to do it. So in the last couple of years during the drought, the Army has kept the lake higher than they normally would. They have actually curtailed power generation. Of course, any water that goes through the dam generates power, but it wasn't generated at the time frames and in the volumes that the power people would have wanted.
I'm not sure if the community realizes that I said in the opening that you have been at meetings in Atlanta and in Washington for several years now. You've been a part of those, and the Gainesville we have been at the table because we are certainly a shareholder in all of this. Since there's been no resolution, what have the talks been about in the past several years? How long has the Tri-State Water War been going on now? I think I've even lost track of that number.
Well, initially, the state of Alabama filed suit against the Army back in 1990. They did that in response to the Army's proposal to reallocate water from power supply to water supply. Initially, Alabama cited them for not having an environmental impact study when they did that. A couple of years later, the Army said, fine, we'll do the environmental impact statement. But the issues have grown and changed, and it's gotten to be several different cases in several different courts, which is why it actually was all brought together in the multi-district court in Jacksonville. There's issues, frankly, ranging from power supply to recreational use to water supply to even downstream uses, for instance, for the plant barley downstream, and shrimp, oysters, mussel, and sturgeon. It really is a convoluted issue, and frankly, if you haven't been going to the hearings, it's really hard to piece it together. It's an issue you've about got to live to actually understand.
You've been living it, haven't you?
I sure have been living it in the last few years.
You've been living it. Let's go back then to Gainesville's answer to what the judge said, and that is for us to move forward. We are always trying to be proactive about things that affect our community, and certainly we talk about 46,000 or so, almost 50,000 water accounts, which really relates more to like 160,000 customers in Gainesville and Hall County. Who is going to be served by this Cedar Creek Reservoir?
Well, the Cedar Creek Reservoir, when it's constructed and pumping into the distribution system, it'll serve all of the customers within our service district. Generally speaking, though, it'll really be the unincorporated Hall County customers because it's out in the county. It's on the eastern side. Some people would call it East Hall. Go down Miller Lake Road to Timber Ridge Road. It's right there. I think that the Riverside plant that's right in the heart of Gainesville will largely continue to serve Gainesville, but that water will be available. You know, the distribution system is kind of dynamic, and it depends on where those demands are as to where the water actually goes. So once that water is pumped in the system, frankly, it could be utilized by anybody within the Gainesville-Hall County system.
How much will the plant cost, and how are you going to pay for it?
We anticipate that it'll cost somewhere between $20 and $25 million. We're talking currently to the folks down at the Georgia Environmental Facilities Authority. We hope to be able to get an SRF loan. That's a state revolving fund loan. In essence, it's a low interest loan, and then they take the proceeds and then they reinvest them into other loans. And it's a great program for doing this sort of work.
I'm sure the water customers are thinking that if we're building a new water treatment plant, they're going to wind up paying for it. How do you answer that?
Well, certainly the people who do use the facility will be the ones who pay for it. I'd like to point out, though, that we've had a pretty serious drought over the last several years. Our revenues, because people were great conserving water, but our revenues as a result dropped about $10 million. It dropped from some $57 million to $47 million. But we have continued to operate, and we've continued to provide the same quality service that we did previously. It's been tough. We've had to defer some expenses. We've had to really think out of the box on how we do some of our operations. But we're always trying to keep the costs down to the customer. We'll do the same thing with this facility. But, you know, bottom line, when it comes down to it, it's my charge to make sure that this community continues to have water going forward. And we can't afford to lose our water supply. There'll be repercussions from a public health viewpoint. There'll be repercussions economically. It's just not something I even want to think about.
What would happen if we didn't build the water plant and the judge's ruling stood?
All that